Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Concerts That Made Us. I'm your host Brian, and I know I say it every week that I've got a great show for you, but this week I have an absolutely excellent show for you. Before we get to it though, as always, find us and follow us on social media. Just search for Concerts That Made Us podcast and rate and review us on iTunes. It really helps the show grow. Now let's get down to business. A massive well done to Reg from the Starting Overdrive podcast on guessing who this week's guest is. And if you don't listen to Starting Overdrive, I urge you all to go find it. Like, subscribe, rate, review. It's one of the best podcasts out there. The man is an absolute inspiration, and he's actually somebody I look up to quite a bit. Before we talk about this week's guest, I just want to let you know that there's two versions of this episode. The one on Spotify will have songs included. The one that's available everywhere else unfortunately won't have any songs in it. So if you want to hear the version with the songs, head over to Spotify. Now my guests. Their band was one of my favourite bands when I was a teenager. Remember in previous episodes when I said I used to go on long road trips? Well, these guys' songs were always on the list. If somebody had told me back then that in 15 years' time I'd be sitting down to have a conversation with these guys, I never would have believed them. So, my guests are Rob and Iwan from The Automatic. So I guess there's just one question on your mind. What's that coming over the hill? It's Concerts That Made Us with The Automatic. Hi guys, you're very welcome to the show today.
Thanks for having us. Yeah, hi. How are you?
I'm good, thanks. I'm good. I'm very good. I'm taking a life goal off my list by talking to you guys today. So very excited.
I think that's like a life goal for me to have someone to be someone else's life goal. I think that's a big tick for me.
Sounds
yeah, definitely.
Sounds a bit odd when you put it like that. All right.
Just creepy now.
Yeah.
Sorry, should we start again?
So we heard your song Monster open the show there, and I was dying to ask you, how do you guys actually feel about that song? The way it's one of the biggest songs you had. Is it cringeworthy or do you guys embrace it?
I think it gave us a career. Like even when we wrote it, we didn't think of it as typical as what we did. I don't think. But I'm sort of neutral. Really. Yeah, I don't have strong feelings about it as a song, but it's obviously it was always amazing to play it live for the crowd reaction. But I was far more interested in hooking people into the other stuff with it. Yeah. I spoke to Pete Fides, the journalist, about 10 years ago. He got in touch with me on Twitter because he was like, I want to do a radio program about how bands go through dealing with one-hit wonders and how they go through the stages of grief over them, and eventually so you go through like, I don't know, anger, I can't remember what they are, but you end up at acceptance. I think there was something in that. Definitely gets to the point where you go, yeah, you sort of accept it now.
Yeah,
in a definitely a positive way.
Yeah. I always thought it is an absolute anthem of a song. It's a great song, but it doesn't represent you guys as a band totally. You know, it's not like your other songs, if you get what I mean.
Yeah, I completely agree.
Yeah,
it's, definitely. We wrote it. So it feels like it was really sort of written almost in isolation, in its own kind of bubble, wasn't it? In a way,
Yeah.
All that COVID lingo just said.
Yeah, it was new to us back then, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was like a break from writing what we considered the serious stuff, I think.
Yeah, it was definitely like a muck about. Like, we wanted to chuck together like a sort of disco-y pop song after going to see a band called Jar Crew and I think we saw Jar Crew in Electric Six on the same gig or something. Is that right? In Barfly?
It was around that time, wasn't it?
Yeah, we'd definitely been to see them playing and then felt like we want to do something a bit more upbeat because they're really fun to go and dance around to live. I think we had that aim in mind. I think the chorus itself was kind of a stopgap till we found something better that never appeared.
We're like, we can be so much more sophisticated than this, guys, and then we just weren't.
We just like
with what we had.
It'll do.
Yeah,
it's fine,
and it did. It did do.
When you were writing it, did you have any inkling or anything that it would be as big as it was?
No,
really,
I didn't for sure.
No, definitely not. Because it was written really quickly, a bit of a piss about to some degree. Yeah, I think we knew it was catchy.
Yeah,
it was sort of consciously an attempt at sort of big dumb hooks, really.
Yeah,
and I think our manager recognised how lucrative that could be before we did.
So, you guys have obviously played like some of the largest festivals there is, and I can't wait to hear your concert stories. But before we get to that, would you mind telling us how you formed and became one of the biggest bands to come out of Wales in the mid 2000s?
Do you want to start, Rob?
Yeah, sure. Okay, I guess in the beginning. So me and Frost went to the same school, but like primary school. So we were about 5 when we met. And we were always mates from then on. And I think both of us, I think Frost had a guitar put in his hands by his dad quite early on. And I played flute. So we would jam together writing songs, even kind of when we were like 6, 7 or 8 or something like that. But that was just sort of kids mucking around. And then, Iwan joined the school when, we were about 11. It's year 6, just before comp.
Yeah, we joined like comprehensive, and then I think we all started, that age where you start getting into music and bands and like more seriously. I think you're kind of aware of it as up to the age of 10, aren't you? Maybe, but not into it. If that makes sense. And then like we were all into that same sort of. I guess OK Computer came out around that time, didn't it? And sort of the last Supergrass album and into Ash and. We was all into those similar bands and wanted to do that, basically. I think
with the sort of
just did
pre-teen teenage confidence of, oh yeah, of course we'll just do it. It'll just happen.
Yeah. So we were like a group of people who wanted to be in a band, but only Frost could play an instrument. I'd say that would be considered an instrument.
What, you're not counting flute?
Band. Oh, you're Jethro Tull. We could have gone that route. Bit Aqualung, but and then I think it was like you wanted to play bass. I guess was that?
No, I was last to pick.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah. So you played percussion in school orchestra, which made you the natural drummer.
Yeah, I used to play timpani, so why not be the drummer?
And then bass was what was left. And I love playing bass. I really do. So I got really lucky there.
Yeah, no, it's a solid choice.
Yeah.
The best bit is when we started off and we just didn't really have any instruments. So like Rob had, your kind of really small bass, it was like 3/4 size bass playing through like a micro hi-fi.
Yeah. Using some ingenuity to get it plugged into that.
Yeah. And the drum kit was like an inflatable chair and a rusty old drum. I think your mum found at a car boot sale once.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And that was us for like the first year or so.
And some say we never improved. This conversation kind of gives you a good insight of how we must have felt when people would accuse us of being manufactured. The least manufactured process you can possibly go through.
Definitely. I think we kind of we're really lucky, like quite privileged in that situation as well. So we fell on our feet in terms of like our parents were really into us being in a band, and then our school were really sort of supportive, giving us like practice space when we wanted. Like every Friday after school, we were just like to stay behind in the music room and keep playing together. We had quite a decent youth club for that as well, which we were allowed to go and play in. I think every opportunity where we were allowed to play for a band in like quite a rural town in Wales, we were given that opportunity by no one ever said no to us. I don't think we were ever told no about things. And I think because of that, we kind of, we were able to really just get into it, I suppose, by the time we were leaving school.
I think that's it. It's space is such a limiting factor for a rock band. Like, so much modern music used to be just made on a laptop, and then it's just not an issue. But if you're a rock band, there's just a fundamental limit on the size you can work with. Like, it's got to be X big or bigger. So yeah, we were super lucky that we could hire out village halls for like £3 or something.
Yeah.
I don't think that'd happen too easily nowadays for younger bands. It seems very lucky.
No. Yeah, we were really fortunate. And then we also got like in Cardiff, there was this really good like under 18s club night. So we got that kind of for young bands called Teen Spirit. And I always think that was really good for us and kind of a really good proving ground, like for the live concert aspect, because you'd get to play in Barfly in Cardiff, like I think it was once a month, maybe last Sunday of every month or something, and you get to give us opportunity to mix with loads of other like local people in bands as well, and kind of you start getting involved in that scene. And I think that was really a good place to get started, wasn't it? And just sort of find out feet. Yeah,
we would have never got into a sort of onto a sweaty club stage before we were 18 otherwise. So no. just getting the head start is invaluable.
Yeah, and I think with that, it gave us opportunity in terms of like we started making connections in places like Barfly and the local small gig scene to get offered sort of support slots when that started becoming, like the band are coming through. We just need that local band to go on before the touring support and the main act. I think that was really like I think we got very lucky in lots of ways. There was lots of hard work, but we also kind of were in quite a lucky situation at the time as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, we really were. I think it's, yeah, I've got nothing to ask. Just going to run my mouth for the sake of it.
Yeah, no, it's good.
Everything kind of came together perfectly.
Yeah, I think we took a bit of a chance then, didn't we? At the end of school, took a gap year, thought we're going to do it. Let's just make it happen in this year. And we went to like a really tiny recording studio in my stag while we were in sixth form and recorded a 3-track demo and just sent that everywhere ourselves. And through that, we ended up with a manager who picked us up in Cardiff, and then like a more consistent, proper rehearsal space because he had a studios underneath his offices. And then that's where Monster got written eventually. So I think if we hadn't had that gap year, I don't think anything would have happened.
No.
And it was really kind of, I remember sort of being very close to the limit, having to call up university and say, I'm not coming, like in the summer, only a few months before or weeks before we were going there. I got a call, in fact, saying, are you coming then? So we did leave it really late. Like just after we were kind of on the edge of getting a deal, we didn't quite have the deal. It was good.
It's a great phone call to make there, isn't it?
Yeah.
That must have been pretty nerve-wracking though, making that giant decision. Do I stay in the band or do I go to college? And waiting for the time to come when you know what the right decision was.
I don't think it was a particularly hard decision for me. I think we'd wanted it for so long at that point. I think I'd even been talking to my parents about it, like, I'll go to university if the band doesn't work out. Like, there's always like again, back to like teenage confidence. But yeah, I think it was a fait accompli, really. It's the wrong expression, isn't it? You know what I mean?
It was definitely.
Yeah.
It was definitely. I wasn't a hard choice to make. It's definitely one of those fork in the road moments that I do sometimes think about it and go, well, what would it be like if it'd gone the other way? Who knows? But it doesn't even matter now. It's moot.
I suspect I would have done quite badly in a degree I wasn't heavily invested in. To be honest.
Yeah, true.
You always would have lived the rest of your life though, wondering what if you hadn't have chosen the band. You know, what would have happened if you had have chose the band? I mean, so
for sure.
Yeah.
You definitely made the right choice.
It's far better to be a one-hit wonder than a no-hit wonder.
I wouldn't call you a one-hit wonder now.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, so you went on and had the massive hit, played all the festivals. Mm-hmm. Then what led to you going on hiatus in 2010?
I think it's like a kind of a lot of different things really that kind of culminated in us being like having to make a choice, I suppose, between trying to carry on and really, I don't know, getting ourselves in a bit of we were kind of in a corner, weren't we? Kind of financially it wasn't viable in 2008. Was it 2008 the financial crash?
Yeah, that was, yeah.
And literally the level we were touring at was kind of very difficult, I think, to find people who were willing to pay the amount to go to a gig to make it sustainable and for us to survive off it. And then obviously we didn't have a record deal at the time either, because that kind of came to an end due to factors kind of out of our control really. And because the label got bought out by another label, it's this really complicated thing. So we were on a small label that was licensing through a large label, then our small label gets bought by a bigger label, and they're basically working for a rival. And then we got caught in the middle of this weird record deal thing and all the other stuff that was going on in the world. And I just think it wasn't
going to happen. Basically, we would have basically had to go back to square one, because we had to part ways with our management for reasons I won't go into. So we would have basically had no income, nowhere to practice, no management, no record label at that point. So although we had some profile, I don't think we were really in a place to carry on as well. I think we needed to go and live our own lives for a bit.
Yeah, I think definitely an element of saving the friendships for the cost of the band. So I think, as we were saying, we've known each other such a long time. I think our personal relationship's probably a bit more important at that point than maybe sustaining something that would have made it. But didn't want to get, because we'd already had a difficult relationship with Penny when that all came to a head, and I think we were scared of something similar happening between the three of us as well. Which
it always gets crabby on tour. Like, you get to the end of a tour, it's like, I love you guys, but I don't want to see you for at least a month.
Yeah, I can imagine. Do you all keep in touch now?
Yeah, fairly regularly. I think it's been more so in lockdown, actually.
Yeah, definitely. I think in the last year, definitely been a lot more in touch. You and Frost. It's kind of like I suppose you say, like the core of the band, the three that have always been in the band, with like a sort of a floating fourth member. I don't know how you describe it. But yeah, we're still
won't take offense to that.
No, yeah, he's fine.
He's got a career.
Yeah. Yeah, like Paul's out in America, so he's not so easy to get a hold of. But yeah, we are all regularly in touch because we're all friends. So yeah, it's just kind of yeah,
it's good.
Also, like there's still like stuff going on with the band. Like obviously, like we're doing this now, but there's like kind of more very boring admin-y things that we need to be in touch for as well. Just paying tax.
Isn't it weird how like a friendship's been kept alive by admin?
HMRC, keeping us together.
Yeah, this is something the government's doing right.
I think a lot of people will actually be quite angry with me now if I didn't ask the next question. Over the last 10 years, has there been any stage where you have got into a room, like the last scene in Rocky 2 or Rocky 3 where himself and Apollo go in and fight?
Yeah.
Has there been any stage where you guys have all got into a room, just yourselves, and jammed together?
Not
we have.
Yeah. Us two have.
But not Frost yet.
Doors always open. I mean, are we technically still on hiatus?
Yeah. It's a really long one. Could be. Who knows?
I was thinking about that actually. You probably would get into the Guinness Book of Records for the longest hiatus ever.
I don't know, man. Do you reckon? That'd be interesting to know.
Yeah.
That's something we'll have to find out.
We should reform just on the basis of getting that record, I think, if we find it is going to be the case.
yeah. Just give it the longest break.
Sorry, not reform, because we didn't split up, right?
Yeah, exactly. Just to pick it back up again. We never even really officially went on hiatus, did we? We kind of, because it ended so weirdly. It didn't really end. We just never. I don't think anyone it's still kind of. There was never that finality to where we are. I think no one's ever said we're not doing it again, and no one's ever said we are going to do it again. And we never drawn that line because none of us have the guts to do it.
I think I think there was definitely that. Yeah, I think by the time we did our last gig, though, we didn't know it was our last gig. There were still things in the diary at that point. It sort of trips you up, doesn't it? Because it means someone's got to have the impetus to go and say to the other guys, it's just not happening anymore. There's obviously too many obstacles, and like none of us were going to do that. I don't think.
No. Yeah. So I think we did get like some complaints from like fans that we never really had that last gig that they could come to. So maybe we still need to do that,
which is fair. I would have liked to have done that. I think for closure.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. I've got a bass in the background of this video. Like, I'm always still making music. I'm not going to hang it up. I can't. I don't think. I'm just pathologically incapable of not making sounds with instruments. So,
I'm glad you said with instruments there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, yeah, sounds too, but. Yeah, no, it'd be wonderful. It'd be wonderful to do another gig, like kind of in any way, shape, or form. Actually, yeah, I've jammed with some mates bands around here. And we did a gig for someone's 40th birthday, but that was that's what I did.
Jeez, I'll have to remember that now when my 40th comes up.
50 quid.
Although hopefully by then it's 6.5 years away, so you might be after getting the full band back together. Hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed.
It'd be for our 40th by then as well. Wouldn't it? Or just over. Yeah.
Sooner the better, really. The grey hairs have really come in the last year.
That's something that actually shocked me as well when I was really big into you guys, like when you were obviously a band. But I feel like it's only lately I realized you guys would have only been like a year older than me at that time, and you were really young to be doing all that stuff. You know, it's kind of crazy to think about.
Yeah. What were we, like 19? We got a record deal.
I think Frost was 18.
Yeah, we did. The first time we were in America, Frost couldn't drink. It's like that's how he was under 21. Like
hilarious.
The rest of us were like just over 21.
I know that was unfair.
Yeah, we went to like South by Southwest, and obviously there's like gigs happening all over. It's all over the city. It's Austin, isn't it? Yeah. And then we were you want to go to a gig, and then you get there, but Frost would have to sort of wait outside or just find somewhere else to go because they're really strict over there, aren't they? So if you haven't got the wristband.
Yeah, it's pretty rough. It's big black hardcore X on the back of your hand.
Yeah, it's harsh.
I think being that young probably immunised us against a lot of self-doubt, actually, because we just got straight into it out of school, which is probably a really good thing. So we could kind of find our feet on stage, so to speak, and actually get good without kind of being too anxious about it. I think the person I am now, I think it'd be a lot scarier. I think just going back on stage now, even though, we've played Glastonbury, etc., it'd be scary.
Yeah, definitely have that naivety to not really care too much. Probably a pro and a con in various ways.
We better start talking about the concerts you've played. So, before we do, actually, just to get an insight into your own music tastes, what was the first concert that either of you went to?
We went to the same one, didn't we?
That's easy.
Yeah. So, in terms of like together, we went to Radiohead, didn't we? Or are you thinking the word yes?
We
as
went
well?
to Yes.
Yeah, we went to Yes. Yeah, there's like Dad's took us to Yes in the arena in Cardiff. I think before that I saw Mark Knopfler with my dad. And, yeah, so got the dad rock at the start. I think. And then like I think in terms of a gig we went to off our own back, probably Radiohead. It
was in Tredegar House.
Yeah, in Newport on like and they were doing the Kid A tour. That's probably like the first like gig I suppose we went to, where you'd be like, we were stood up in a venue watching a band, not sort of sat down watching old men playing prog. Although that was good. We stood up watching young men playing prog. Yeah. And that was like, they were in a big tent, weren't they? They took their venue with them, and that was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I've still got the poster for that gig, actually. So,
trying to work out how old we would have been, like probably like, I don't know, 12, 13, something like that.
Yeah, so like 98 or 9. Was it 2000?
I think maybe 2000.
Yeah. Yeah, how long ago that was. That
citation needed.
Yeah, because I remember we were going to go see Catatonia before that for my birthday, and then they broke up. So that wasn't the first gig. I mean, Radiohead is the next gig. So yeah.
Radiohead's a pretty good one. It's
a good one to say.
It's probably not the most credible answer, though, is it?
It's one of the more impressive ones I've heard. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's fun. I think Sigur Rós was supporting as well, but wasn't really into them.
No, I don't think it didn't have that preteen energy that we were craving. Did it? Mind you, never do Radiohead, but by comparison,
yeah.
So we'll move on to yourselves. What was the first gig you played as a band?
That was a birthday party. It depends on how you want to count it, really.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry, go on.
No, you can. No, yeah. If you're talking like a band, us playing together as a group, doing a load of covers, it was the Levy's birthday party, wasn't it? In the local village hall, town hall.
In the Scout Hall next to the cattle market.
Yeah, that's it.
Where rock and roll lives.
Yeah, that was quite fun because we were basically doing bandioki or whatever it's called, where the band played and people were just coming up and singing the songs they wanted, and that was quite fun. And then I don't know, what would you consider our first gig as like a?
There's first
act.
First gig as a signed band. Was that Manchester Academy?
Yeah, so I think you've probably got like a few different first gigs in a sense. I think because we did we were White Rabbit before we did Automatic. There were some gigs as White Rabbit, and they were probably those Teen Spirit ones where we were playing our own stuff and getting into it. And then that Manchester Academy supporting was that Hardfire, the Ordinary Boys?
I wrote notes before this, and I was like, right. I've got a question mark at the end of that. Because it was the same tour, wasn't it?
I think it was the Ordinary Boys. We supported them.
I think it was.
They were the first half of that tour, actually. Yeah, and that was fun. That was really good, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's incredible to be in front of that many people for the first time.
Yeah.
And as much as they're saying like we were a bit immunized from fear by our age, you still get scared, right?
Yeah. And it was that step up and thinking, and because we were like the first act of 3, maybe.
Yeah, I think so.
So you're playing in front of like 2 bands worth of equipment. So actually the stage was really tiny, but the venue was really big. It was really, it was good. It was really fun. that venue was really fun to play in, actually, Manchester Academy, because we went back there quite a lot, and it was always a good gig.
We played all the different Academy venues in the end, didn't we?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How did you overcome the nerves of your first time playing to that amount of people? I can imagine it'd be very nerve-wracking.
I always found nerves quite useful, really, especially as a noisy rock band. If it was like a sort of solo, delicate acoustic guitarist, I think I'd be hosed, really. I think the nerves would get to me. But when you can just kind of hit bass strings for a bit to get over the nerves, it's quite a good thing. You can use the energy, I think. I think we kind of deliberately constructed set lists to start with a bang quite often.
To slow us down, get worn out, just to hopefully slow us down a bit. I feel like we always play too well, and it'd be my fault. We play too fast. You can't get a bollocking.
It's not like the rest of us were trying to slow you down, though. But it was like, I don't know, we probably managed 15 songs in an hour comfortably.
yeah, definitely.
Shrink our album down to 30 minutes.
Yeah. I find it weird that, so like when you play into a large crowd, it's so it becomes so big that it's hard to distinguish people in that sense. It's like, so medium to small gigs, so I find them much more nerve-wracking in the sense that once I'm on the stage, you can see the person in front of you staring at you and looking at you, and you're like watching for your mistakes. Whereas in a huge crowd, it can be quite hard to just pick out an individual with all the lights going on, and just it's so much just huge. It's like just becomes this thing rather than a group of people. I don't know.
I completely know what you mean. I think it's 50 people versus one crowd, and I think there's the other factor as well. Is like if you're playing for 50 people, chances it's either a secret gig or you have to impress them to advance your career. Whereas if you're playing in front of a large crowd, like they're there to see you. So in some respects, it's a lot easier. I always found big ones a lot easier than small ones for the same reason, psychologically.
You definitely get like this sort of nervous. You're still nervous. I feel like there's a different kind. I don't think they carry on as much in front of a big crowd. For me, once you're up there, they kind of dissipate.
Same. I think
you feel like, you're getting into it, then you become comfortable. I think with a smaller crowd, it doesn't happen so easily.
No, there's probably more reticence in a smaller crowd as well to kind of whoop and cheer and stuff like that, and just the noise and energy that you get off a big audience is incredible. I think that's the band's job, is to give some energy to the audience, and then they pass it back, and then you pass that back to them bigger and bigger each time. It's really hard in front of 50 disinterested punters like who are just nursing pints.
God.
So Coldplay have got it easy, is what I'm saying.
Do you remember what your go-to song would have been around the time of your first gig?
No.
As in the one we knew we could play and would just get everyone going?
Yeah.
I think before Monster, we had a song called, was it Doors or Jack Daniels? We had a song called Jack Daniels.
Yeah.
That everyone seemed to like. And
I still like that.
Yeah, I still like it. It's called Jack Daniels because it was the 7th song we ever wrote, wasn't it? It was like
number 7.
Number 7. It was called Jack Daniels.
Spending too much time in bars as kids.
Yeah. And I think Doors was the first track on our first ever demo. So lots of people knew that, because when we recorded our first demo, we just gave it to everyone. Like all our friends and everyone had it as well. So they were the people who come to your first gigs. So you play that and everyone will be like, we know this one. So that always went down quite well.
Started with a big heavy riff as well, which was good.
Yeah, that's true.
Cool. So the last gig you ever played, then I know you said you didn't know it was your last gig. That was actually the first question I was going to ask you about it. So you've already answered that one. But what was it?
Was it Inverness?
No, Barrow Inverness.
Okay, yeah.
Barrow Inverness. It was like, and it was really weird. I remember it being really weird. Not well attended.
No, it was a really funny one. I don't think there was a lot of marketing for it.
Yeah, it was. I can't remember if it was like part of some strange local festival that was going on. A bit like a kind of lots of little gigs happening around Barrow. And getting there, and there was definitely a sense that it hadn't really been promoted. It was a bit disorganized. It was probably quite representative of a lot of the gigs we sort of played towards the end.
I think so, yeah. It probably was, actually.
Yeah. And I remember we had a few fans there who were like always at all our gigs, possibly.
Yeah. Some of them, I think, yeah.
It was definitely,
it reminded me actually of like some of the Teen Spirit gigs, in that it was like kind of part youth club. The whole vibe like half attended.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember, but to be honest, like I can remember sort of coming into the venue, I don't really remember playing it,
I think I've got some images, but it was just like, yeah, kind of just what I described, like a sort of half crowd and just like people wandering around and like kind of sort of like an old anxiety dream of a gig.
Yeah, and it's probably one of the worst things because we didn't know it was our last gig. There was no reason to think I need to remember much of this, no. In the sense that, and it was so sort of, I just don't know, not an impressive, but do you know what I mean? It just didn't see. Yeah. It was just such a non-event.
It wasn't the worst gig we ever played by any stretch of the imagination. It was just really average.
Yeah.
And a bit weird, and a lot weird.
Yeah, because it's like Barrow Finesse, I think it's like one of the. It's really remote, isn't it? In terms of, I think the furthest north you can go in England before you're Scotland, and then it's still kind of miles away from there, if I'm correct.
Is it actually England? Oh man, my geography's terrible.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's like right, like I think there were like walks to Hadrian's Wall.
Oh, okay, right.
That's what I remember from it. That kind
of probably would have been better spent like just going and brushing up on history a bit.
Yeah. I remember staying at a strange bed and breakfast. It was like someone's house.
Yeah, there was something of a Mike Leigh movie about that place, wasn't there?
Yeah. So it's kind of it's a weird last gig to have. Yeah. So didn't remember it in a weird way. Remember everything but the gig, me, personally.
It must be really hard to get energized for a gig like that.
Yeah, I think you have to get a professional mindset as a performer, really, and just try and give them as much as you can. And if they don't respond to it, you've done what you can at that point. But not that it's not frustrating.
Yeah, I think if I played a gig where you haven't just gone on and given it as much as we could, I think you just got to, haven't you? Regardless, there's that whole thing of like play like you're playing to Wembley or whatever, that kind of mentality. But I think it helps, like definitely mentally, if you're playing a difficult gig, to just kind of imagine you're at a battle.
Imagine the way the problem crowd and just mentally sit a good crowd.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think I always just really enjoyed playing live as well. So just, bawling my lungs out into a microphone and making bassy noises. It was just always an enjoyable thing to do. So that immunizes you against the worst of it, I suppose. If you don't enjoy that, then why are you there?
Yeah, exactly. I think we love playing together as a band, and I think that's what was the definitely most fun element. And it was always, if you have a gig like that as well, sometimes you would get the odd sort of person who's like, I was a bit skeptical about you, but actually really enjoyed it, or you weren't what I was expecting. Normally someone who only knew us for Monster. So, and kind of had the prejudged indie landfill idea of who we were. So that was always quite gratifying on a difficult gig to have someone come up afterwards and go, actually, I did quite enjoy you.
I love that was our dad fans, basically, wasn't it? Where their kids like Monster, their sort of preteen kids like Monster, and then they came along and they're like, oh, this is all right, actually. It's all right. Loud guitars and stuff.
Not too bad.
Better than Bob the Builder or whatever they were at the week previously. So.
We'll move on to your worst gig then. Or worst experience.
Yeah. I've been trying to think about this because I feel like it's really hard to remember terrible gigs in the sense that you don't want to remember them.
You just want to move on, yeah.
And I think of all the ones where it's been like a really bad experience, it's never been down to probably the gig itself, but something that's been happening in maybe the band, or like just it's something not clicking maybe on that gig rather than necessarily an audience or anything like that. I don't know about you, Rob. But.
Yeah, no, I think I'd agree. I do have a gig in mind, but I think it's sort of more emblematic of things that went wrong. But like, I suppose the most personally mortifying thing for me is that there was a gig in Southampton Joiners, and I just basically lost my voice. It just burnt out by that point, and we still went on and did it. And I was just like yelping my way through the whole thing, and that was just mortifying.
Yeah.
But it's a sort of choice of, well, what do? Do you cancel it, or do you go on and suck a bit? And we went for the latter option that day. And that was quite hard. And I think after that I started taking slightly better care of my voice.
Yeah, I think when it's, people you're not giving them your best, or you can't provide what you want to give the audience. That can be hard. So we did, there was like, when we were promoting Monster, It was like this really brutal day, I think, where we had like 5 gigs in one day. It was some insane thing where we had
so we played FOP.
Yeah, we did like 2 in stores, a gig in a gig at Welsh Club in Cardiff, Club Evelbach, and I got to skip out of one because you did a gig for like the Welsh BAFTAs or something down in Cardiff Bay at the same time.
Yeah, just a weird acoustic thing.
Yeah, some weird crazy thing. And I was also like ill that week, and it was horrible. I had like a rash on the palms of my hands. I don't know what was going on. I just remember being like, this is horrible. And that was like not a fun day. It was a whole set of little gigs that weren't very pleasant. Just because you're like, I just want to go to bed.
Yeah, I remember that day as well, and that was another one where my voice was like burning out by the end of the day. And that was, I think we probably shouted at our manager after that.
It's like, why the hell has this happened?
Don't give us 4 gigs in a day again.
Yeah.
So there's just a limit of what you can do. You know?
Yeah, I think was that the specific gig you had in mind when you spoke about the Southampton one?
No, it wasn't actually. That was just a standard gig. But my voice was just gone at that point. I don't know if I'd had a cold or just drunk too much, or whatever. But sometimes it just I just didn't look after it early on as well.
Yeah,
didn't know how to.
Yeah, we had some horrible ones probably towards the end of Penny's time in the band. I think we had some very sort of stressful gigs then. That was kind of a particularly like tense moment in the band, and some of the gigs were kind of, I think he struggled with and we struggled with. To the point we did I remember we did a gig at I think it was Cardiff. We did lots of like freshers balls and summer balls at universities, because it kind of, that was while the sort of gigging season sort of fluctuates, doesn't it, between sort of, we have festivals in the summer, and then like in the winters kind of like the venue, you do your touring in the autumn and the spring, I suppose, and then in the summer you got festivals and student balls and stuff. And we did Cardiff Uni's summer ball, I think, in the grounds of Cardiff Castle in Sophia Gardens. And Penny just sort of left the stage about, I don't know, 4 songs before the end.
And we just carried on.
It was, to be fair, it was fine. But it was one of those things where you're just kind of a bit like, what is going on?
It's funny you mentioned troubles with Penny and with your worst gigs. There was 2 I had in mind that I thought you might have said. You might not count one as a gig, but it was the performance on GMTV.
Yeah, that was
what happened there. Like, I could see in Rob's eyes and your eyes, you were like, okay, I'm just going to keep going. What the hell are them 2 doing?
Yeah, I know. Do you want to lead?
Sure.
There's so much to say.
I mean, it's first thing in the morning, which is never a good time for me anyway. But our manager had been really fucking cagey about. Sorry, I've sworn.
Yeah, work away.
He was really fucking cagey about what show it was we're going on, and we were like, "Is it GMTV?" He was like, "No, it's not GMTV. It's this other thing that's just straight after it." And so we got there, and it's like, "Yes, it's GMTV," and it's like too late to kind of cancel or do anything about. And that was the origin of all that, basically. That we've just been kind of blindsided with this information, actually, that wasn't internal band tension.
No, that was like, we were just fully lied to by management on that one. We were very specifically told, you've got this gig at the end of the week, early morning on TV, and we were like, it's not GMTV, is it? Because we don't want to do GMTV. It's just not what we want to do. Very clearly, specifically, we're not doing that. No, it's not GMTV. Fucking GMTV, isn't it?
Lo and behold.
And I think we were on tour at the time. We were definitely on tour, actually, because we were playing in Birmingham the next day. No, we were playing Birmingham that day, the same day.
Yeah.
So Frost had been up really late the night before.
And slept in any meaningful way. Yeah.
We're probably still up because it was on so early, actually. So he wasn't like drunk or, definitely still drunk. Because there's photos of me eating a banana, and it's like, I've never seen a man eat a banana in that way. In the green room at GMTV. And I think it just kind of, when we were miming, we did tend to muck around a lot anyway on other programs, like not necessarily take it completely seriously, because who believes you're really playing? It's obvious when you're miming. It's hard to make it look convincing. But then I think it just sort of escalated between Frost and Penny, didn't it? They kind of started mucking it up, then really mucking it up. And
didn't want to be outdone by the other.
Yeah. I remember
like
really
fire and ice.
I remember afterwards just really sort of shitting myself, like, oh, we've just ruined it. We've ruined it for ourselves. We really annoyed loads of people. But then, like, speaking to the label, they'd be like, great, people love it. So that was quite fun.
In fairness, it did look like cool rock star stuff.
Yeah,
I guess it was.
Yeah, and it was truly spontaneous. It wasn't planned. I think a few people it was, again, that sort of criticism, like, that's obviously a setup. You've done that on purpose. But it wasn't, because one of the cameramen chipped a bone in their elbow or something.
Yeah, they got hurt.
And he got a stand thrown around and it hit him. So we ended up sending him a box of wine. And we fucked that up because we sent him a box of wine, but it was one of those ones that's actually a subscription. So we were sending him wine for about 2 years. We only meant to send him one box of wine. I'm sure it was something like that.
I think, yeah. Would you take a chipped elbow for free wine for 2 years? I'll leave that as a open question.
Yeah, we didn't even realise it was going out of the account. Stupid, but yeah. That wasn't awful, was it? It didn't feel like the worst gig, like, in terms of, it was just a bit.
We were between a rock and a hard place because we'd be mugged by the people who were meant to be looking out for us. Like, our manager did not tell us it was GMTV.
Yeah.
And that's why that happened, basically, because we got lied to.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt awful. Like I said, and as you mentioned, we were on tour at the time, and so that's getting up early. It sounds like a stupid rock star thing, right? But we keep hours of, like, sleeping between 4 or 5 and midday and 1 or something, because that's appropriate to when you're actually working. Like, if you go on stage at 10 p.m, you don't want that to be your bedtime. You want that to be the middle of your day or a reasonable time. So yeah, getting up like in what would have been the middle of my night to be mugged off by our manager.
And it definitely takes you out of that tour bubble, because I think you're even like, the tour bus sort of carries on without you. You have to just get up early, jump in a separate van and get there, and you're kind of all discombobulated by it and just like, what's happening? What's going on? Why am I in a weird garden at 6 a.m? Why is that bloke from Band of Brothers here? Why
he was loving it?
Yeah, he was great, Damien Lewis. But it's just like, what is happening? And then, why is that happening? Why is Penny doing that? I think the banana that big.
I definitely wasn't aware of what he was doing until like quite a way along. I think, like you said, I was just like pissing about, kind of strumming my bass like it was an acoustic guitar in like a 50s band or something. But it wasn't until quite late on that I was like, oh fuck, there's shenanigans.
Yeah, because we used to, like, growing up watching like Muse on Live and Kicking and Top of the Pops when they were miming, and they'd always like swap around instruments and muck about and not really be doing, because they're miming, so you can. And so we just always used to sort of take that sort of approach, but yeah, it just went a bit far that time.
I was always a bit contemptuous of miming because I thought we were a good live band, but like, so sometimes it's the only way to get on a show or whatever, and you kind of take the rough with the smooth. But yeah, it's a performance, right? So
yeah, exactly. It's art, man.
Well, it made it very memorable.
It did that.
Yeah, definitely.
The other one that sprung to mind was, there's a clip of it on YouTube. I think you're playing a festival or something, and Penny jumps down into the crowd, and you're just looking at him as if to say, what the fuck is he doing? And I think he hits someone with a mic, then throws the mic off and just walks off stage. Was that the one you'd mentioned you kept going?
No, that was probably another. No, that was Leeds. I remember that because I've seen the clip. That's probably why I remember it, because it was really good. That was a really awesome festival, and we played Reading the day before, had an awesome gig. And I think Penny jumped down, and I think he got. I think in the clip, someone grabbed his t-shirt, and he kind of got choked out a bit, and then I think he got a bit upset by it, so sort of walked off. I think he maybe hits. If he hits someone, it's probably to stop them strangling him. Which I suppose is fair enough. But then, yeah, it was that was I think that was a really good gig. I
remember really liking Leeds. I don't remember much about the gig actually, which is worrying. I should watch the clip. That
weekend, because we played like Reading Festival, which was, I think that's we'll probably get around to it, but I'd rank as one of our best, most memorable gigs in terms of. And then Leeds was like the next day, so it kind of slightly overshadowed by the Reading day before. And I remember it being a good gig, actually. I think there was that bit at the end. I don't think it was even aware that it happened, personally. Like, because it's
probably beyond the lip of the stage for you.
Yeah, and just also because it's Monster would have been the last song of that set. So if he walked off, I think he walks off towards the end of it anyway. It didn't really make a big difference in the sense that it felt like we'd been abandoned there. Or just walked off. Yeah, it's a bit of a different one to the one to talk about earlier. But that was a fun festival. We were I think we had Marky Smith on our tour bus for ages at that one. Do you remember that?
Yeah, we turned up to our dressing room and he was there like eating our biscuits or something, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like, I'm sorry, I'm in the wrong room.
No, he
was really sweet.
Yeah, he was lovely. And he's ended up sitting on our bus for ages, just drinking booze, I think. Yeah.
Was Jeff with us at that time?
It was Jeff. Yeah,
he absolutely loved the fall, and it was just the best day of his life.
Yeah, he spent all day in our lounge just chatting. That was good. That was good fun. I think the Vines played as well, and that was good to see them. Yeah, I remember that being a good gig, but I don't remember it as well as the gig the day before.
I think Reading was symbolic as well because we'd been there. That was the festival we went to as kids.
Yeah, that was our festival, wasn't it? So. Yeah, that Leeds gig wasn't awful. Yeah, I've seen the clip. It's a good one to. Yeah, it's good to have a look and see what happens because it's a bit like, they capture the whole thing.
It's really frustrating because we went to uni after the band stopped doing stuff, and I felt like that's where I learned to remember things. So like since then, my memory's great. For stuff that actually happened during being a rock star, it's a bit blurrier.
Yeah. Free booze every day doesn't help.
It didn't help, no. Don't know what
Uni must
about.
have been an interesting experience. I imagine every day there was loads of, well, in my head it's loads of girls running up to you being like, oh my God, you're a rock star, what are you doing here? Was that the case or?
Well, I did computer science, so no. The demographics are what you expect.
Yeah. No, it didn't happen to me. I remember because like me and Rob we finished band, we both went to uni about the same time, and then I was in a different part of Cardiff uni, and someone came up to me going, my friend's in a class with the singer from the Automatic. It's amazing. I was like, okay, fair enough. I didn't say, I know him.
Yeah, he's alright, I suppose.
Yeah.
I remember going to the student union with a couple of mates from the course, and there was those quiz machine gamblers, and there was a few of us gathered around one of those, and the question came out, which of these songs was not a UK #1? And the answer was Monster, and they all looked at me like, what's the answer, Rob? I was like, it's me, for fuck's sake.
Okay.
So this brings us to the best gig you've ever played. This will be interesting.
Can I go first?
Me?
Yeah.
There's again, I did lots of different ones. I think Reading that I just mentioned was amazing because I think that was like Rob said, the festival we went to through school, from GCSEs, and saw loads of our favourite bands at, and then we were playing on the same stage that they were playing on. And we weren't just playing on the stage, we played in front of because we were on the, I don't know what it was called then, was it still the evening session stage or Radio 110?
It was Radio 110.
Yeah, it's second stage, and we filled the tent, and then outside the tent was the same again, I think. And we had we got on really well with Gold Digger and Chain, who were there at the same time, so we did Gold Digger, and they came on with us for that, and it was just felt like that whole festival season was amazing. I think if you were gonna distill it, but it was every gig felt like a party at those festivals, and you'd get all your friends out to come and play. So we had Gold Digger and Chain on stage with us. Then I think Get Cape was touring at the same time, so his trumpet players came on with us as well. Is that correct? So I mean, we had trumpet.
Was it some of the guys from Adequate Seven?
Yeah, but I think they were playing with Get Cape.
Oh right, okay, yeah. So
So and then we just got all our friends for Gold Digger. Just everyone came on and just had a big party, and then everyone in the crowd was loving it. And they're doing all the stuff you hear about, climbing up the tent to have better views and things. It just felt real. You know what I mean? It felt really good. That was an awesome gig. I think that's one of the ones I mark down as like the best gig in terms of everything seemed to click, especially at a festival, which can be rare because they're so.
Yeah, it's a lot less control over the situation.
Yeah, you're just going on cold, no sound checking or anything. You're just playing, but when it's right, and it was really good. Definitely one of my favourites.
I think just before we went on for that, Kelly Jones from the Stereophonics was backstage kind of wishing his luck as well. And it was like stuff like that's just unreal. I think that was the most validation I'll ever receive in my life. It's like you say, it was like a carnival on that stage as well. And mostly our gigs were just rock gigs. So it wasn't, that was quite an unusual experience in and of itself, but it was just incredible. It was just perfect for the moment as well.
Definitely. I think it's the best thing about festivals is that because you have so many people there at the same time that you don't often get that when you're on tour, because you're in a town on your own, playing a gig on your own. You can get that kind of collaboration or just invite people on, and it's not a problem. You just kind of do what you want in a way. Have really good results. Just really good time.
That's rare outside the rap world, isn't it? Yeah. They get all their mates on their albums, but you don't do that in a rock band.
I mean, there's another one we did around then. We did Boardmasters Festival down in Cornwall, and that was amazing. And there's this, it's a really old, grimy clip of it on YouTube. I think of us playing Gold Digger. But we used to get Jamie, our guitar tech, on to play the bass for it because Rob was playing flute. And he came on in like a pair of red Speedos, and that's it. And he's got like these kind of goggles on. I've got trumpet players, and it's like sun setting over the sea. And there's like, we're playing, and there's like, because it's like an extreme sports festival as well, isn't it? There's like motorbikes doing flips across the sun setting and things. And it's like, that's amazing. That was a really good fun gig as well, actually. I think in terms of festivals, they were great.
If you just read that description, you wouldn't believe it was a real thing, would you? It doesn't really happen like that, does it?
Yeah, it did. That was amazing. I think it was really high on sugar then as well, because they gave us loads of free innocent smoothies or something. They were like, we didn't get beer. We had like crates and crates of this juice. I was just drinking sugar all day.
Oh my God, that explains so much. I think I've got the two that spring to mind, and I've definitely used this example loads of times. But there's a gig we did in Concord 2 down in Brighton, which is like, I think it's my favourite venue because it's like a massive greenhouse on the beach, and it has about 600-700 people, something like that. And it's which is like the perfect size. So you're beyond the scary 50 people zone, but it's still small enough that it feels like intimate, and like you can kind of see everyone and see them all enjoying it. You see all the way to the back. And it was just incredible. And it was absolutely sweltering hot. And we'd been ill-advisedly sent to a stylist by our label like the day or two before. And he had some funny ideas about us all having to wear white boxer shorts. So we just white boxer shorts. We came off the stage before the encore. We're like, should we just like, it's like all our clothes are disgusting. Shall we just put on these white boxer shorts and go back out and wear those? And we did, in a way that I could only get away with my early 20s body. And then we ran into the sea at the end of the gig, and some of the crowd followed us, and yeah, that was magical and slightly dangerous, but
yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, it was really fun. I thought, like, notable mention that I thought, I guess you mentioned Sam Duckworth turning up on stage with us, and it reminded me that we were the last band to play the Astoria as well, and that's a solid claim to fame. And I think Sam Duckworth will try and make that claim, I reckon. But he just came on at the end of our set, which doesn't count.
Yeah.
We were still playing. It was a draw.
Yeah.
I remember that being really fun.
Which one, the Astoria?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. I think we did. There's like, I think because we played so many different types of gigs, it feels almost like in the same way we had lots of ones that feel like our first gigs, lots of ones that feel like they're the best at that level in a way, like kind of like they're the best festival. They have like the best, like Brighton Concord's amazing, and that sort of size venue. And then you have like small venues that are really good as well. And we played we did some weird tour, or we did like loads of really small venues in Wales. And we played like the Queen's Hall in a town called Narberth, which is kind of just past the M4. So it's kind of just off about an hour, 45 minutes, hour away from the main roads. And that was an awesome gig. Do you remember that one? It was we played with like Viva Machine, who were like our friends from Swansea, and they kind of had the same management as us. And we played, and it was like a town hall, but it was like proper packed out gig, and it went off, and it was amazing. I think it was the only gig I ever played where I sort of took my top off the drums. It was so hot. At least I hate doing that. It was amazing. I have memories of that gig just being amazing and just really loving it and being so surprised by it. I think
people still talk about those little Welsh gigs though, because I think it's so rare to have a band of our stature then, I suppose, go out that far and play those gigs. I can't remember when it was in our career, but like the further off the beaten track you go, the more appreciative people are, I think, for you being there. Like, I don't know how off the beaten track Norwich is now, but we always had amazing gigs in Norwich as well.
Yeah. We definitely have like these tentpole venues on tours where it's like, we can't wait to get to this one. I think Norwich Arts Centre was one of those. And there's always a great gig. People who ran the venue were really loved what they did. So it was always fun just to be there and doing it. And then I think Stoke Sugar Mill was another one that was always amazing. Because it was like this night, it's like a big box with like a balcony around it. So it had that, and it was just always fun. And the crowd were always amazing, weren't they? And everyone loved it. It felt like you didn't really put the effort in for it to be a really good gig, but it's like it became effortless in a way, didn't it? And obviously we did put the effort in, but it's just I think
that's like what I was saying earlier though. If the crowd's going for it and they're giving you that energy, it's so much easier to give them some back. It's just it's always I think the memorable good gigs are the ones that take you by surprise. We had one, it might have been the last gig we played in America, I'm not sure, Rob. You know, we played like it was like right at the end of we did like a really big tour in 2007. I think 7. Was that the Warped Tour?
Yeah, we did. We did Warped Tour for our own, and we kind of got added on. I think we cancelled the gig because it didn't sell. But then we were like moved on to, and they booked us on a different gig that was run by a local radio station that had been playing Monster all the time. But we turned up. Do you remember this, Rob? At all?
Do you remember what city it was in?
I think it was like North Carolina, Charlotte.
Oh yeah, and it was like proper like roadside shack, wasn't it? And
but then all these people turned up and they loved it, and it was just amazing, and it was just so really surprising because it's like, oh, here we go. Because I think America for us wasn't massive, was it? It was like once we went off on our own, we kind of played into small rooms that were pretty much empty, but this one just wasn't. And it was really cool. It was really fun.
America was a weird reaction for us because it was always like small crowds, but super enthusiastic. So the people who were into us were really into it, which is really gratifying. But there was just bugger all people there, tiny crowds.
Yeah, definitely. You have to go out of your way in America, don't you, to find bands like us in terms of from the UK who are.
That's probably it.
It's niche.
Anglophilia working in our favour.
Yeah, definitely.
Didn't you guys have to change your name slightly in America as well?
We did. Yeah. So this guy had like one single in the 80s. He called himself Automatics. Decided that the automatic was too close and
would steal his trade or something.
We'd steal his trade. That was interesting because he carried on releasing albums and stuff under his own name. And he said part of his argument was that he'd sold more records because people thought he was us.
So we're improving your sales.
Pretty much. But I think the record label just didn't want to risk it. So they're like, change your name for the States. And we didn't have any good ideas. So we just stuck Automatic on the again. I have a feeling, I don't know if this is like just adding, I'm making this up, that we added to the automatic because he was Automatics. Like, okay, so we'll be more than one Automatic. Like, I'm sure there was something along those lines. Oh, fuck you then. We'll be Automatics, but that sounds like our kind of spite, doesn't it?
Yeah,
that's something we might have done.
It was completely arbitrary. We didn't have to do it, and it was just done because it was just risk averse.
Yeah,
scared of getting sued.
It's an overly fearful reaction, really.
Yeah. So yeah, we called automatic in America, but not for any real good reason, just to avoid an argument, I think.
Yeah, it's really stupid, isn't it? Like, you can go and break a cameraman's arm on GMTV, and the record label will say, this is great publicity, but God forbid you should get sued in America. Odd logic.
America's weird, and that's that.
Yeah.
So, do you have any cool or wild rock star stories from when you were on tour? Or were you pretty tame when you were on tour?
I think we drank enormous amounts.
Yeah. I think about that regularly with some element of regret. But I think it's what happens when you've put a load of 19-year-olds on tour with like basically free unlimited beer.
Unlimited alcohol, yeah.
And it just drank a lot. Yeah, wild.
So trying to think. Going to Japan was pretty wild for a number of reasons, and this is like I sort of oscillate between having alcohol regret and forgiving myself a little bit, because we were out there for not even 3 days, I think, and we had to play Fuji Rock and then a gig in Tokyo. And so there was a ton of traveling as well, but we were like, we're jet lagged to hell. There's no point sleeping. So we pretty much didn't. And we ended up like wandering around Tokyo in the middle of the night. And we did that karaoke with Joe Wiley's husband.
Yeah. And he was that guy, there was this like Finnish guy, and he was like crazy, and he looked like Andrew WK with like a giant handlebar moustache.
Yeah.
And
he just attached himself to us. He's like, oh, this rock band is just going out and getting fucked. I am here for this. Let's go.
Yeah. We went to that 24-hour karaoke bar, didn't we? Got like not
we
thrown
terrified
out.
them.
Just asked to leave because we were consuming too much.
Politely but firmly encouraged. Yeah, because it's a whole thing of you can have what you want, but most of them don't, because they're polite and sensible and not 19-year-old rock bands. And we were just like, more beer, more chips, constantly. Like drawing kind of a crowd from the other booths.
Yeah. She had like, I suppose you call her like a Japanese, she was like a fixer, kind of like the label send out someone while you're in another country just to be like, look after you and get you like say have the local knowledge. And they'd be like, oh, there's this great karaoke bar. It's like 30 quid each, but that's all you pay. And then you can drink and eat what you want. And it's like up a kind of like Lost in Translation style skyscraper looking out of Tokyo, and just in a room singing Elton John and Kiki D at like 5 a.m. going, "Run a bit beer."
We ended up in a hotel swimming pool at like some obscene hour of the morning as well. Like on one of those nights, there was no distinction because we weren't sleeping. So, and then a really put upon policeman was just in Japanese saying what I assumed to be, please just get out of the pool and go away.
Like, the pool is closed.
The pool is home. So I kind of wish we'd had an opportunity to have more of a cultural experience there, but I don't think we would have got a lot done anyway. There was so little time, and we were just so jet lagged anyway that wasn't a terrible way to play it necessarily.
Yeah, I remember like literally sleeping just before the gig in Tokyo because it was just so shattered from the flights. Just having to sleep on the floor on like bags. It's like, I want to play. It was a good gig.
Yeah, I remember both. I think there were 2 gigs, weren't there? I remember both being quite good.
Yeah, we played Fuji Rock and that one in Tokyo. That was really fun. And there was like a Fuji Rock kind of after party in Tokyo that was really fun.
Yes. Scissor Sisters were there. Mystery Jets.
Yeah, lots of all the bands were kind of there, just hanging out. And that was good fun.
It was. I remember like there were cool cultural differences there, like. When we were playing Fuji Rock, the crowd was really going for it, but they're all pogoing in their own little pockets of personal space, and there's no mosh pits, and it's all like really very polite. It's the most surreal thing to ever see. It's like, this is very un-British. They'd be all kind of elbowing each other in the face at home.
Yeah.
I think overseas, when we were out of the UK, probably when we were the most off the chain a bit, I suppose.
It probably was.
Yeah.
Not by design.
We did a tour of Europe that for some reason meant we spent a week touring Holland, like the Netherlands.
Well, Holland's the only country we had a number 1 in.
Yeah. So we literally were like played every city in the Netherlands, but returned to Amsterdam every night. And I remember that being a heavy week.
That was. They were good gigs though. They were amazing gigs.
Yeah, so fun. And but yeah, every night was a bit of a washout. Because it is that thing. It's like such a cliche, isn't it? But when you're doing really good gigs and it's all going really well, you just kind of want to carry on. You can't just stop. In the sense that it's really difficult to just go, right, I've just had an amazing hour of adrenaline, and now I'm just going to stop and go to bed. Because you don't want to do that. And
the good book.
Yeah. I mean, it's not to say it didn't happen occasionally when you get like a bit of tour burnout, but
yeah,
definitely.
I'd imagine that's actually one of the hardest parts, is that you'd end up craving being on stage 24/7. That it's hard to fill the gap when you're not on stage.
It's definitely the thing I miss most about being in an active band is the gigs, because they were just incredible. Touring was so much fun. That was from the perspective of someone in their early 20s though now, and I wonder if it'd be a bit different 10 years on. But, a friend of mine commented, you must have an amazing threshold for boredom, because like 23 hours of the day you're just doing nothing. It's kind of true. I guess there was always interviews and things to do like that and sound checks, but a lot of the time you would just be wandering around a strange city, not really knowing where you were.
Yeah, definitely. I think like the approach to touring sort of changes as you go, as you get more experienced as well. I think when the first few tours were so like pretty chaotic in the sense that you're young anyway. We'd never not lived at home, and suddenly you have to try and figure out how you're doing your laundry while you're on tour. So I know I just stank for about 2 to 3 weeks during that first tour before I realised you can go to a laundrette and they'll do it for you. Just stuff like that, you know. I would go into our record label and we go, because Paul, who's the A&R guy, would be like, because he was like looked after the Kai's Chiefs, be like, how do they have clean clothes? How does this happen? And it'd be like, I think they go to a laundrette, and be like, what? I stink.
It's such a weird thing though, because like, okay, yeah, that's obvious in retrospect, but at the same time, we still have to get up and like find a laundrette in a city you've never been to before.
Yeah, and like you can do it there before you go to the city you're in the next day.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, touring is weird, isn't it? Like that downtime is really strange. Like during the day, especially I think in the last tour, I tried to drink less because I was like, I'm getting quite fat and I'm drinking too much beer. I need to chill out because I'm going to just really burn out. So in the last time I wasn't drinking so much, so it meant I was waking up a bit earlier. And then you're just like, oh, there's nothing to do.
I think it was a bit tricky as well because it was just before smartphones, or like when they were still, I don't know, expensive. So you can just kind of look up what was going on your phone quite so easily. You're a bit more on your own.
Yeah, I remember we were like right on the cusp of that kind of, as a band, one of the like probably those last bands that kind of had that whole thing of smartphones, social media, just that other element. We just never really had experienced that. We kind of had blogs on our website, I think. We were given in terms of smartphones, we were given like these free Virgin Media TV phones that were really awful. You could watch like 10-second clips of Hollyoaks on it. That's about as smart as the phones got then. So, yeah, it's such a different world in a way. Even though it was only like 15 years ago.
I remember when we got a Twitter account as well. It was like a guy was like a Rhodian photographer for us. It was like, you guys should have a Twitter account. It's going to be huge, and set one up. And we're like, oh, okay, well, what are we going to use that for? What's this all about? It's so funny in retrospect.
Yeah. It just didn't have that. It's kind of weird. It'd been very different if we did, I think.
I'm kind of glad, it's a mixed bag really, because we might have been able to do clever things with it and prolong our careers a little bit, but we did avoid the risk of any social media snafus, which I think, given that we were growing up into more publicity than most people do anyway, like could have said something ill-advised and destroyed our career in an instant. So got ourselves cancelled.
Yeah, there's lots of interviews that back. You go, oh God, why did I say that? But then you think, like, a lot of people don't have that stuff written down, do they? So
no. Poor Gem Z.
So at this stage, I usually get slightly more personal, not too personal, but slightly more personal. So If you could talk to yourself back then, what advice would you give to yourself?
I think I'd obviously we have the hindsight. That's the point. To be like write stuff down. I really regret that I don't have more of a record of things that happened then, that I can easily just like, even if it's just a note, like today we did this, just like a diary, just something. Because I feel like I took it for granted quite a lot.
Yeah.
And when you're in the midst of it, why would you can't go into it imagining it's going to end, because that's not going to help. So I wish I'd sort of just kept more of a record of things. And conversation like this would be so much easier. I'd be like, oh, let me just turn to my diary. I just
reading journal entries.
Yeah.
Over Zoom.
Just more of a record of what went on, what we did, because I think as time goes on, you forget, don't you? And it's just like,
yeah. We did hundreds of gigs, and how many of those do we actually remember? Like, there must be some that have just completely gone from my memory.
Yeah, I remember like at one point, sort of when we were early on, being like, "Oh my gosh, we've almost played we played a gig like at least on average 4 gigs a week or something this year," because it just adds up. So yeah, I wish my advice to myself and then be like, write it down, do your homework, just have something to remember this by, or just a bit more, because the internet's not very good for us, because like we were saying at that stage before smartphones, there's actually not that much online about us anymore either, because the website's disappeared, so it's hard to find a lot of stuff.
Lost to the mists of time.
Yeah. Thankfully.
I suppose I guess I wish I'd written stuff down as well, but I can't do that now, so I don't think I'd be able to do it. No, I probably wouldn't give myself that advice. I reckon I would have just encouraged myself to take a step back and properly expand skills as a musician and start networking with people and look for what else you could do as a musician, just to be able to keep the ball rolling, I think. So it's too much of kind of, when you got back off tour, it was catching up with other people and like not necessarily honing your craft. Like when the connection cut earlier, I was chatting to you and saying like, actually, I'm a better musician and singer, at least not technically, I'm out of practice, but now than I was when we did the last things with the band, because I've just kept going and kept learning and actually put more time into it in a deliberate way. We spent a lot of time in the studio, but I suppose I was just getting better and better at playing bass and singing in the context of the automatic, but not kind of like taking time to really work on my voice and understand what I could do with it and that kind of thing. So it'd be interesting to know if I'd start doing that then, where I'd be at now.
Yeah. I think if we could have chilled out. We went on we went like 100 miles per hour, didn't we? And we kind of toured, then we recorded, then we toured. We never really gave ourselves a decent break, and I feel like we should have had a break.
I should have lived it a bit.
I think we struggled, didn't we, because we didn't give ourselves that time to go out and experience other stuff. It was the band for so long. While we were doing the band, it was the band, to the point where we'd kind of be just going into studio for no real reason other than we're meant to go into studio today. And it would be like almost pointless, because you can't just go into a studio and just be like, let's just create, without having experienced stuff to take in as well. And we sometimes didn't do that, I think, to our detriment. We should have maybe done a bit more outside of it.
Yeah.
With our time.
It was the way we'd always written was collectively rather than one person coming in with a song. And it was, the automatic music would never have come about any other way. But at the same time, it was kind of, it puts all your eggs in one basket, because if you lose a place to practice, you can't write anymore, or at least not in that way. So yeah, it's a bit tricky. There were definitely days in the studio where we just we shouldn't have been there, for sure. 100% agree on that. A dark, moldy studio.
I think that was one of the driving factors towards the end, was kind of like, oh, what are we doing? We're just going in like 9 to 5 and just sitting in this windowless room producing. Like, it just wasn't great.
At least we have windows during lockdown. That's nice.
Yeah, amazing.
You touched on things disappearing offline. I've noticed that there's quite a bit of your songs not on streaming services. Have you fixed that, or is there any sign of it being fixed?
We're trying to. It's all like part of what we mentioned earlier in terms of our label. We're licensed through Universal, Our label got bought by Warner Music. So our catalogue, we think, is now owned by Warner Music. And then whatever thing on Spotify and the streaming services lapsed. And I think it's literally a case, isn't it? Someone needs to go on their website and just tick a box for us saying, put that music back on.
Oh, Jesus.
But we don't know who that person is. And we're trying to figure it out. Rob, you got hold of our old label, didn't you?
That was an interesting conversation. Yeah. Basically, like, do you know who owns our records now? No. Short answer, like, oh, wasn't it Universal? Not sure. Okay, all right. What can we do? It's like, well, if you re-record the albums, you could put those online.
Yeah. So we're kind of in the process. Like, I've spoken to Spotify directly, and they've just been like, "This is what's happened. You need to find the person who can press the button." So we got probably putting off as long as possible, having to just get in touch with a solicitor or someone who actually knows how to do it. Because try and do it cheap as chips, but because we're literally sort of, I guess we're all self-sufficient now in terms of the way the band is run. It's just us. We don't have those people who can go and sort this stuff out for us anymore. We have to do it ourselves. So we're figuring it out. We spoke to the guy who signed us. He's in Australia now, and then again, you get so far and then they sort of just disappear. It's like hard to.
Yeah, I think he's got his own stuff going on, so I don't really can't speak for him, but. You know, if he goes dark, there's nothing we can do, you know. So we're left to like tweeting at Big Four from is it Big Four, Big Three, the big record labels from the band Twitter account and hoping for the best.
Give us a call.
Twitter's come good.
Yeah, I had a cursory glance last week, just trying to find some kind of contact information, and then it's just obviously. I remember this when we were trying to send demos out. They're pretty impregnable in terms of how you get in touch with them because they don't want everyone getting in touch with them. So. It's probably going to be a case, I need to contact our lawyer, solicitor. She's really good and she knows people. So just that she costs money.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, hopefully I'd like to get it all back on because I think Not Accepted Anyway is 15 this year. And it seems like it's rubbish that you can't listen to it really without having to go out and buy a CD, and no one buys CDs anymore. So
no one can listen to it.
No one can listen to it. And it's not on vinyl. It was never on vinyl, so we're trying to sort it out, and this is a fix as well. Both. I think Monster is still on something, Apple Music maybe.
It's on Spotify as well.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah. I think they're on there as like compilation albums on something else. Yeah.
It's a tangential route, isn't it?
Yeah, we're trying to figure it out. We're trying to sort it out, but this when you're out of it, you're out of it. It's really weird, and it? It's very much a closed loop. So
I think this is. It's partly a problem of having, not being on any terms at all with our old management now. Like they were the ones with the connections, which was their job, but it leaves you in the cold. So, yeah.
It's kind of a weird situation though. Like it's your songs, but you don't own them and you don't know who owns them. It's kind of it's very strange.
Man, it's fascinating, but it's pretty punitive to the actual people who write the songs.
It's that's one of those cons I was talking about earlier, being like 19 and naive when we went into this. There's lots of things like that where it's like we didn't really, you're not aware of what's going on business wise. We didn't really have any control over that. It just kind of that was happening around us, but we didn't care because we were just having fun playing gigs and making music, and that's what we did. But then
I think so.
You're never really thinking about what's happening to the rights of these songs now. You just assume, but I kind of it is a weird one. I don't think anyone knows, which is even more weird.
I don't doubt that we've just slipped between the cracks somewhere, but it's the fact that you've got no recourse is the weird thing. Because I'm sure the record labels would be like, yeah, sure, we'll make another 13p off your songs if it just means clicking a button. Like, why wouldn't they?
Yeah, exactly. So it's just a funny quirk of us being caught between a licensing deal and two labels that are in competition. Rather annoyingly.
Yeah. So if you end up speaking to anyone from any of the big three, could you
I will.
mention our predicament?
You'd never know. They could be listening. If they're listening, press that button.
Yeah.
The last couple of questions then. I always ask, if you could see any performer or band throughout history in concert for one show only, who would it be?
I'd be quite obvious, probably, and say Bowie. But when he was like Thin White Duke, like Station to Station era, or maybe like Berlin period, I think that'd be really fun, really cool. Just because Bowie never got to see Bowie. He's one of those people, because his death was so sudden, wasn't it?
Yeah.
And you kind of assume, oh, I'll get around to seeing Bowie at some point. And then it's like, I'm never going to get around to seeing Bowie. So if I could, I think it'd be Bowie. Because I just know it'd be amazing. A really good show. So I remember watching his Glastonbury performance. It was like shown again recently, wasn't it? Maybe last year when they had all the weird lockdown stuff because Glastonbury wasn't happening. From like 2003. I remember watching that at the time and just being like, he had this amazing bassist. I can't remember her name. She plays like a 5 or 6 string bass, and it's just like incredible.
Yeah, it wasn't Esperanza Spalding or something, was it?
I don't know, but just he always had like an amazing band. Or maybe it'd actually be really cool to see him do like Let's Dance stuff. It would be like Stevie Ray Vaughan and like Nile Rodgers. I don't know if they did touring with him, but can you imagine seeing that? Like Bowie with Nile Rodgers and Stevie Ray Vaughan, and just
it's even better than the Automatic and Goldie Looking Chain.
yeah. I'm not sure if they toured, but I think that would be incredible. I think it'd just be a great show. Obviously, it would be a great show, but it'd be just one of those ones to see, wouldn't it? It'd be amazing. I think that's mine. Yes.
It's pretty hard to beat that. Mine's equally obvious, really. So I'm going to give you 2 answers, actually, because one's Freddie Mercury with Queen, because they're probably just objectively the best band. Like on any criteria you choose to take, their top drums card would be completely unassailable. So it's just amazing. And Freddie was probably one of the greatest singers in history. The greatest compliment I've ever been paid, or certainly top 5, was, "Oh, your voice reminds me a bit of Freddie Mercury tonight." And I think that person was wrong, but what a sweet thing to hear. Like, holy shit, I'm not going to top that.
I would have been like, I'm giving up now. It doesn't get any better. I've reached the highest.
Much, yeah. Or like, tell me exactly what I did. It reminds you of Freddie Mercury.
Bottle it.
My non-obvious answer. So I've been learning the piano for the last few years. I was going to say Chopin, but I don't actually think he performed. So I'm going to say Bach, just to see what a historical great would be like. It's a super pretentious answer, but I'm still curious. If I was, Doctor Who.
First time I've heard that on the show from anyone.
Yeah.
If there was a soundtrack to your life, what song would appear on it?
Oh my god.
Okay, I got one lined up. I got some notes.
All right, fair enough.
All right. So my fave band that I always go back to are Clutch, just because they're so much fun. Just relentlessly fun band. So probably Earth Rocker. Do I think I'm an Earth Rocker? I'd like to think I'm an Earth Rocker. I'm not an Earth Rocker, but it'd be awesome. Aspirationally, I love Earth Rocker by Clutch because it's just 100 miles an hour, big, dumb, fun rock song.
Good choice.
Oh, I can't think of anything. I'm not as prepared as you, Rob.
I don't know why I wrote notes.
Yeah.
Really knows.
I'm gonna because I think maybe not for now. Maybe a bit. I say Outdoor Type by the Lemonheads would be a good one. Just maybe about pretending to be slightly something you're not to get what you want in some ways. I won't go into. I don't know. Just that whole maybe faking it till you make it slightly. In some ways, and not necessarily in the band aspects of my life, but other aspects of my life. Probably Outdoor Type by Lemonheads. Definitely one I still go back to all the time as well. It's like one of my favourite songs, so might as well be on there.
It's a great description of adulthood as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Faking it all the time.
Yeah. There's so many situations. I think in a band, just pretending you feel, being as confident as you are meant to exude. That confidence, just pretending you have that confidence. Obviously, I think
performance.
Performing, yeah. Yeah, I think that would be it.
Not a bad choice. We kind of touched on it at the start, but last year you put out a tweet about playing a couple of small gigs and if people would be interested. Is there anything set in stone for after the pandemic and all this crap is over?
Nothing set in stone. Say that for sure.
Okay.
But we kind of, I don't know. It's one of those probably it's not me and Rob that need convincing in order to play a gig. We'd like to, and then it's sort of it's like this. Not exception, it's 15 this year, which I think is quite important. Feels quite important to me. I don't know, to do something would be really good, but it's kind of logistically, obviously, that probably wouldn't be this year. If not, maybe it would be next year. Who knows?
I feel a bit like a relic when I think about how we go about doing it. Because I'd absolutely love to, but like God, even my equipment's probably like 10 years out of date now. Apps and stuff like that. How do you do a show now? I have no idea. So but there's surmountable problems really. If you find someone who knows what they're doing, those things will happen. All we'd have to do is practice.
Yeah,
I believe it's possible.
I think we'd like to. I think especially it feels like the last year or so, there's definitely an appetite there. It seems loads of we started our using Instagram just because of lockdown, to be honest. I was a bit bored of this, but and so many people like yourself have been getting in touch on there just to talk, just ask questions or just ask what's going on. You can do some gigs and things. And there is interest, and it'd be nice to do that again. I think we need to all be in the right position to do it situationally in terms of our lives and circumstances, and being able to gig at all at the moment.
Yeah,
I mean, just day jobs and families. I think we need quite a long lead time just to get that sorted.
We don't have that privilege of flexibility anymore, where you can just go and do it whenever you want, because you have to be like, I've got to book time off work now. Or could we do it so it's only on weekends? And just general, who's going to look after the baby? What's going to happen?
So I couldn't stay out till 5 a.m. if I had to work the next morning. Come off stage with that, I'm full of energy and I'm going to bed.
So we'd like to. I'd like to.
Yeah. It sounds like a lot of no, but it's not no. It's just kind of thinking around the problem.
That's very optimistic.
I've been saying I'd like to for about 10 years. Since we stopped. Yeah, it would be good to do something small. Just because I think it would be fun. And I think we'd have the guts to do anything bigger than small. Don't have that kind of presumptive arrogance thing.
Unless a wealthy patron were to make it worth our while.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Well, small to start with. I'm sure there'd be a massive reaction, and you'd have to announce a proper tour then.
Yeah, that'd be fun. Be good. Whereabouts are you? You're in Ireland, yeah?
Yeah. Southern Ireland. Waterford.
Oh, okay. Oh, we played Cork, didn't we?
Yeah.
A long time ago. I don't know if that's near you.
It is. It's only about an hour down the road.
Oh, okay, yeah.
That was a really fun gig. There was no one there, but the people who were there were doing traditional dancing and things.
Really? Very fun. It was a long drive, wasn't it?
It was.
That.
I was just going to say, if you want to pick your small gig for somewhere around Cork, it'd be great.
Yeah, do it.
Oh, my sister lives in Dublin, so we could crash at hers. So.
Perfect.
Do it.
So we're coming together.
Yeah, sounds good.
I'll start scouting small pubs and clubs during the week.
Yeah.
That'd be really fun, actually. Guerrilla gigs in tiny pubs.
Oh, man. Finally, before I let you go, is there anything you want to say to the listeners, or an impression you want to leave them with?
We've covered a lot of ground in this, haven't we?
Yeah. Jerry Springer's thought for the day. Be good to each other.
Be good to each other, which should go without saying. But go to gigs and support venues when things are normal in the after times. Because venues are going to be hurting at the moment. Yeah,
it's struggling, isn't it? So got lots of friends and people we used to work with, or people still in bands, who are having a tough year. So when we all get the opportunity, don't take it for granted, just get out there and start going. We've got a gig. We're going to see McCluskey and Jarker in a year's time. We've already booked our tickets for
band reunion 12
months away.
So the Kerry didn't happen, but we managed to gig.
We're not playing gigs, but we're going to gigs.
It's a start
too.
Well, that was how we got into playing gigs in the first place, so who knows?
Reignite the spark. Keep going to gigs. That's a solid statement.
Great. The last question then is, At the moment, my favourite song of yours is Steve McQueen. And I always think it's funny in hindsight now, the line in it, "My last performance escaped me." It always kind of sticks out at me.
Damn it, yeah. Sorry.
What's your favourite song if you were to listen to your own? Or do you listen to your own music?
I do and cry. No. Do you have one, Rob? Do you want to go first?
Yeah, okay. For me, it was Accessories, I think, because we never quite got around to getting it nailed live, but a lot of people said they always wanted to hear it. And I, like, you know, blowing my own trumpet, I thought I did quite a good job with the lyrics on that one, which I always found quite hard. So yeah, that one was, I was going to say it's not quite a departure for us, but not, it was a little more sophisticated in some ways than a lot of the stuff we did. So yeah, I really like that one. I got a big soft spot for that one.
It feels predictable because I really like it, but I think people don't necessarily know it. But Magazines is probably my favorite. I feel it's like similar to Rob. I feel it's like, I think pretty much anything maybe off This Is a Fix, I'd say I like. It would be hard to choose one. I think Magazine is definitely one of those, because I remember recording it and just really enjoyed the process behind it, and it feels like one of those songs. I think it's rare when you record a song necessarily for it to always come out how you wanted it to in your head. And that's I think it's one of the ones actually, when we finished it, it felt like that's what it was meant to sound like. And it sounds exactly like how I imagined that song would sound on record, and perfectly, for me anyway, maybe just because I'm thinking in terms of drums and stuff. But we recorded it in LA and with Butch Walker, and I think he was really knew what to do with that song, and it clicked with what we wanted to do with that song. And it recorded around the same time as Steve McQueen actually as well, isn't it? All in the same sessions. I don't know if Accessories was there, or was that in Cardiff?
I think Steve McQueen was there because Butch ended up mixing it as well. And I remember hearing it on the radio, like we had like a great college rock mix that really just popped out. It was
like bollocks, isn't it, as well? It's like still chunky.
Yeah.
I remember like Magazines, I really enjoyed the drumming on it in the middle. So Paul sort of brought the riff, didn't he? And he was like, I want this out. And he also had the drum idea. But then in the middle, there's like got these like some really big sort of reverby drums. And I remember we had hearing this sort of documentary about Bridge Over Troubled Water, where they're like, we really slowed down the tape and played the drums at the end we sped up the tape and recorded the drums. So when they played back, they sound really like huge. And on that song, you got that really long reverb snare sound. And then I was like, Butch, can we try that on this track? Because I just want to try it. And remember just him being like, okay, let's like double, or I don't know how, multiple times the speed of the track. We'll play drums along to it, just do loads of fills. And we did it. And they just sound like massive. I really like it. It just sounds fully like exactly what we wanted. I was just really chuffed with that track. I love that song. I think it's really good. I think it's kind of got a nice swagger to it.
I think, oh man, I've said this, you would certainly say this a lot of times before, but I think if we'd managed to get Magazines released properly, we'd be having different conversations now. I think I think that was a good, solid pop song.
Yeah, it was the single after, it was slated to go after Steve McQueen. We even had like all the promos made up for it and stuff. And that's when the record label relationships between each other all collapsed, literally just before that was released. Essentially, but it was kind of ongoing around that time, and they just never got it to there. I feel like if that had come out, that probably would have been the song that made us not a one-hit wonder in a lot of people's eyes.
Yeah. I think we had Steve McQueen, which was a lot more credible, I guess. It was probably more like things we originally wanted to do as a band. Just a sort of more of a straight rock song, I suppose. But then Magazines was a completely different proposition again. It was like it's like a heavy groove, really. Yeah.
I think it was like a really good, in that it was one of those songs as well. It's probably where we benefit from Paul joining the band. So it's like Paul came to the band, wanted to do pop songs, we wanted to do rock songs, and that kind of like the perfect kind of collision of those two ideas in the sense of it's really I wish that had been released. I wish it had made it, but it didn't, and now we just have to try and struggle to find it on CD because you can't stream it anymore. You get it off YouTube somewhere, for sure.
The premise of the song is probably like not even recognizable to kids these days. Like, who reads magazines anymore? They don't even exist. They're online.
Yeah.
Oh. You'll have to rename, if you do get it re-released, you'll have to rename it E-Zines.
I don't know how am I going to make that scan.
Apple News Plus.
Yeah. Well, guys, that brings the interview to an end. Thanks a million for coming on. I've really enjoyed it.
Thanks for asking us. It was good fun.
It's our pleasure.
Yeah, love chatting.
Yeah, it
was good fun. I hope you enjoyed it. I know the listeners are going to love it.
I really did.
Oh, brilliant.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for listening if you did.
Yeah, thanks everyone. I was going to say buy our records, but you've got to find them first.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show is over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.